What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, and either fix them or we build them together depending on how they rank. Now, today we are beginning our talk on the subclasses of the Blood Hunter class. We talked about that last week. If you missed that video, make sure to check it out in the iCard above right there, so that way you are fully caught up on what the base class does. But today we're talking about the Ghostslayer, and so if you are excited to learn about all the ghosties and how to absolutely annihilate them, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so please help us out, help us to grow. It's always wonderful to see new faces here on the channel, and I really appreciate the support. Make sure to click the bell so that you're notified of any new uploads, and of course, share the video and the channel with your friends. So the Ghostslayer subclass of Blood Hunter is one that is obsessed with death. One that focuses on the transition from life to death and making sure that people stay in death, I guess. They aren't exactly fond of the people who manipulate the ability there and try to come back to life and that sort of thing. So that is kind of the gist of this subclass. Of course, this can be played in many different ways, but that is the general gist of it. So let's go ahead and look at all of our features and rank those. At level 3, we get a couple of features, and the first one is Rite of the Dawn. So we actually get an extra esoteric rite here. This is unique to this subclass only. No other one gets something like this, and it's pretty cool. So we go ahead and pick up one that is Radiant Damage, which Radiant is a very nice damage type to pick up, especially here at 3rd level. And also, this has more benefits than just your normal ones. So your sword will actually glow out to a radius of 20 feet. You have resistance to necrotic damage, and you deal an extra die of damage when you hit an undead. So this is definitely one that that does really well in a undead-based campaign, as you can tell. So Curse of Strahd, this is a great one, or anything else where you're fighting off hordes of undead. This one's going to do really, really well. It's definitely built for that. As far as in general, how I would rank this. This is a solid 8. I mean, having a second rite here at level 3 is really, really great. You don't get that on any other subclass. And so this allows you to really focus on doing 2-weapon fighting. This subclass is very much focused on 2-weapon fighting. And so this allows you to have one rite in one hand and one rite in the other hand at all times. And then you can, of course, switch those up as you gain more levels in the class. So that's pretty awesome. I think this is a really cool feature. At level 3, we also get Curse Specialist, and this just gives us an extra use of our Blood Maledict each rest, which is great. It also makes sure that all of your curses affect creatures whether or not they have blood. Now, normally you would have to amplify a curse in order to get around this, but you don't have to with this. So you can effectively use the lower version, not necessarily have to amplify and take damage, but still get your effects that you want to get off, which is really, really great. Again, if you're fighting ghosts don't have blood, so blood curses aren't really going to work unless you amplify. This keeps you from having to amplify, so that's going to save you a ton of damage over the course of your campaign. This is a 10 out of 10, honestly. Like, super simple, but it takes 2 of your bigger weaknesses of not having very many blood maledicts and having to amplify every time that you fight something that doesn't have blood. It takes 2 of those and just completely patches those up at level 3. So that's really, really great to get this stuff really early. At level 7, we get Ethereal Step, and this allows you to cross into the ethereal plane, which is pretty cool. A lot of characters really, really like doing this. This allows you to walk through certain objects on the material plane, which is really, really neat. So it's basically, when you just want to, you can do this. It doesn't require an action to activate it. You just kind of do it, and it lasts for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence modifier. So I personally don't like the wording of a number of rounds, just because if you're using this then outside of combat, then it's just a few seconds. So I mean, if you have a +5 modifier, So then you've got 30 seconds, right? So, you know, that's a decent amount of time, but I feel like it's more useful in combat just with the wording that it is. I wish that it was just a minute. You just have a minute and you're done, but that's just me. I just don't like that wording. But this allows you to walk through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, and if you end your turn in something, you take some force damage. If you run out of this feature while you're inside of something, then you get shot out of it and you take some damage. You can do this only once per rest right now, but you get to do it twice when you get to level 15. Being able to go on the ethereal plane is kind of amazing, to be honest. It's definitely a get out of jail free card. You can just completely disappear. This is what makes hags really, really good, is because you corner them and you're beating them down, they just cross into the ethereal plane and they can just get away and there's nothing you can do about it. With this, you could chase them down, and that's pretty awesome. I think that's really, really cool, and this gives you the ability to do things like that very similarly. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a really, really good feature to have on a PC, and it's very rare that anybody, at least on the player character side, gets this just as a subclass ability. At level 11, you get Brand of Sundering, and so this basically is another boost to your Brand of Castigation. As you know, you do get the Brand of Tethering as a base Blood Hunter as a bonus, but this is yet a third feature that will help to boost your brands. So what this does is when you attack a branded creature, you deal an extra Hemocraft die in damage, which is great. That just means that your damage that you're dealing to yourself is doubled back when you go to deal damage to the opponent. So that's great. That just makes your investment of your own HP that much more worth it, because now you're dealing extra damage. So that's absolutely wonderful. And in addition, it cannot move through creatures and objects. Now this is much more situational, but again, Ghostslayer, so it's very on theme. However, how much is this going to come up? Depends on your campaign, I guess, but by and large, you probably aren't going to deal with this a ton in the grand scheme, but it'll come up every now and then. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. The extra damage is always going to be welcome, and the second part of it's a little bit situational, but I feel like the extra damage is worth it enough for me to just go ahead and say, yeah, this is a really good feature. At level 15, we get Blood Curse of the Exorcist, and this is a blood curse that is specific to the Ghostslayer subclass, and so this is what our feature is going to be based on a new little blood curse, some cool new little toys. So as a bonus action, when there's a creature within 30 feet of you that is charmed, frightened, or possessed, you can end that condition. So that's cool. I think that's going to be kind of situational depending on your campaign. Again, this in the right campaign, this subclass is going to do really, really well. In the wrong campaign, this one's going to feel kind of useless, and this blood curse kind of just hits that home. You may never use this. You may use this on the daily. It just depends on where you are and what situation you're dealing with. If you amplify this, then you deal 3d6 psychic damage to the cause of the charm, frighten, or possession. So that's pretty cool, but I mean, at level 15, 3d6 psychic damage isn't all that much, so but also they have to make a wisdom saving throw, and then they are stunned until the end of your next turn, so that's a little bit more useful, and that basically will kind of ensure that they get absolutely wrecked if they fail that wisdom save. But overall, this blood curse really isn't all that great, at least in most situations, because it's reliant on what your opponent does to your party, and so if you're fighting a bunch of things that don't really use charm, frighten, or possession, then you're not going to use it. So it's not going to be something that you necessarily use every single day in most campaigns. For that reason, I'm going to have to give this a 6 out of 10. In some campaigns, it will definitely be like an 8 or a 9. In some campaigns, it might be like a 4, because you may never use it ever. So I think that this is a fair ranking. I don't really think I can go any higher than that, though. Finally, at level 18, we get Right Revival, and so if we get knocked down to 0 HP and not killed outright, we can end one of our rights on a weapon and go back to 1 HP instead. Now, this also does specify that if you have a right on multiple weapons, you can end one or the other. This is why 2-weapon fighting is really encouraged on this subclass, because one, you got a second right at level 3, and then now it's saying, hey, if you have more than one weapon with a right on it, then great, then you're ready to go. You're absolutely ready to go, and you can just keep on surviving, which is absolutely fantastic. This is a 9 out of 10 feature for me. Just giving yourself more survivability is always a good thing, and in my opinion, this definitely could save your life in a lot of really meaningful ways. So I think it's great. I think it's an awesome feature. So where do we stand on the Ghostslayer Bloodhunter? It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. So I really like that we get an extra right and that it's radiant damage. That's really, really cool. And it's really cool that we can couple that with our right revival at level 18. Obviously, this is very late, but it's a really good feature. So, I mean, that's kind of part of it. It reminds me a lot of the Artificer and its capstone feature of ending an infusion in order to not go down. It's basically the same thing, and I really, really like that. I think that that's a really effective way to do it. You have to make a sacrifice, but it's also for the sake of your health, so it's kind of one that you really need to make. It's just part of it, unfortunately. So I think this is a really cool subclass. Overall, I think this is an 8 out of 10 subclass. I think that this really helps to boost the Blood Hunter. I think that it really helps to augment the features that come with the base class and gives it a lot of new things that it can do. This definitely is one that you will want to go with 2-weapon fighting on. And again, normally I don't like 2-weapon fighting, but we're going to try it out for the build this week. So it did make our ranking, and so we are going to be building one later this week with 2-weapon fighting. So I hope you guys are ready for that. So I hope you guys have a great week this week. Hope you're looking forward to our build later this week. And until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.